What is going on, everyone? AP over here at Run Pure Sports bringing to you. We got the Lineup Builder Show with our partner Sabersim. I'm here with my guy Rubio. Yesterday was wild. We had almost 80 points scored in the Browns-Colts game. Gardner Minshew, optimal. He wasn't in the Millie Maker winner, Bill, I don't think, because who's playing Gardner Minshew against the best defense in the NFL? Not me. And almost 80 points scored in that game. Absolutely insane. Patriots, who, again, not a good football team, beat the Bills. Ravens stomped the Lions, which, I was talking to my guy, Bad Girl, Raven on Twitter all week. I told him his team was going to stomp him, and they did. I should have played Lamar. I'm a donkey, and I played Matt Stafford over Lamar and Pat Mahomes. That was definitely on me because I don't know. I could go on a rant for a while, but Chiefs clearly the team to beat right now, which I don't think is something that you want to hear as a Bengals fan. But it is how it is. How was your Sunday, my man?
Well, Sunday, crushed F1, did really well in NFL, and fortunately had Kelsey. I was on Mahomes Kelsey all week and then dipped off at the end, but it still wasn't bad. Thank God for motorsport racing. It just does a great job. Week in and week out, we can always count on it. And that's the best part of RPS is that we cover every sport from top to bottom. And I'll even get into some League of Legends action. Winners across the board, too. So it looked like a great week for a lot of people. But as an AFC North guy, a big Bengals fan, I was saddened to see that the refs fixed the game for the Browns, fixed the game for the Steelers, and ultimately gave them 2 wins that neither team deserved. I mean, the Steelers probably were going to win regardless of if Kenny Pickett got there or not. But as someone who had Cooper Kupp on their team, I didn't get a 2-minute drill.
Now I'm just tilted. Yeah, because, again, opportunity is everything. And, again, I had it I took a bunch of crap for, rightfully so, going from, hey, just jam in Lamar, just jam in Mahomes and Allen. Allen busted, but still, if you stuck to the 3 kind of studs, and we talked about it off the chalk, I thought this was going to be the week that we would see separation at the quarterback spot. And again, another week, me not taking my own advice. I did get the Puka call, but I did not see Stafford only throwing 29 times. Again, opportunity is everything. If they get that 2-minute drill, another 8, 9, 10 attempts potentially, depending on how it goes. And so game script, opportunities, everything. And a tough spot. I did not have Cooper Kupp catching 2 for 29. Absolutely insane. Again, can't be results oriented. I still think kind of the target tree there is one that's very defined. I didn't see them running the ball 31 times. Like they didn't have Kyron Williams. I did not see that in there. They just were literally running Darrell Henderson right, fullback or RB dive just over and over and over. And I'm like, what are you guys doing?
It's almost like Sean McVay's I'm going to show everyone running backs don't matter. I'm going to run the ball a million times or whatever. When the Steelers secondary has just been exploited all season to start out. And yeah, it was frustrating. Puka getting Kupp's targets too, which rightfully so. Puka seems to be a stud, but when you had Kupp in your lineup, you're just like, damn, just throw the ball. You're moving it when you throw the ball. Oh, just frustration.
Yeah, and I can't say I was watching that game really closely because it was on right when the Chiefs game was on, and I was, Chief Chargers. I'm always going to be glued to that game. So I caught it in the background, and yeah, Puka does look like a stud. I don't know if it's a situation moving forward where you just go either or. I'm kind of thinking that seems to be the case when you just kind of look at what's going on there. It's like one of those guys is going to go off, and it's like the other guy is not. Could both go off? I still think it could. You need the touchdowns from Stafford, and it's like when they get into the red zone, it's, let's hand it off 900 times and run it right up the middle with whatever running back that we are pulling off the street to get it done. I don't know. I digress. It was a wild slate. The parity in the NFL is just insane, which brings us to 49ers Vikings. And again, if you're looking at yesterday, and it wasn't just yesterday. If we go back to the week before, we had Jets with a big upset. We had Giants that should have beat the Bills, and then the Bills ended up losing yesterday to the Patriots. This one thing I want to bring up, and it is gross. The Vikings defense over the last 3 weeks, something is clicking. And I've kind of been saying it like these teams, said it yesterday on the show, like, something wrong with obviously the thing wrong with the Bills is injuries. The week before was the thing wrong with the Philly, which they corrected last night, and they looked fantastic. But on a week-to-week basis, it's the NFL, man. Anything can happen. And all I've noticed is the Vikings defense has looked a little bit better over the last 3 weeks. One of those matchups again against the Chiefs. They didn't get the win there, but they were live in that game. Obviously, though, if you look at last week, struggled mightily without Justin Jefferson, which is going to be the point. And with another week under the belt, can KJ Osborne, Jordan Addison, and Brandon Powell, who was the third guy that really stepped up, can they get to that next level? The other thing that I saw just kind of on the surface, macro point of view, we saw more Alexander Madison attempts, more dump offs out of the backfield too. And then so the other two big things in this game before kind of giving your big picture there is Deebo Samuel is going to be out for the 49ers. And it was Ray McCloud when Deebo went out after 15% of the snaps last game against the Browns. Ray McCloud, I saw a huge step up in snaps. I think it was right around 79% versus 18% the week before. Rubio, 43 total. San Fran favored by a touchdown in Minnesota. Minnesota really struggling on the season. No Justin Jefferson tonight. What's your kind of overall big picture, thoughts on the game tonight?
So you got it right there, right? You have the wide receiver situation for both teams. Justin Jefferson out, Deebo Samuel out. Who stepped up last week? Ray McCloud for the 49ers got a lot more snaps, and Brandon Powell was the one who stepped up for the Vikings. You also had Addison and Osborne there kind of leading the way, but you had two number one options gone. Ayuk, arguably the number one option in San Francisco, but, he's just a stud and absolutely one of my favorite plays into this slate. However, the running back situation for both teams too, like Madison got a lot of work. I just hate this lingering shadow of Cam Akers in the background. Like, are they ever going to unleash him? Are they ever going to split these snaps? Because let's be honest here, Alexander Madison isn't exactly tearing the cover off the ball or anything like that. He's been just mid, and I'm curious to see what the Vikings end up doing. The fact that they got the win last week against the Bears, it was a really just bloody game, He only averaged 2.4 yards a carry, did have 4 catches out of the backfield and stuff, but this matchup is no joke. And honestly, an over-under of 43, I almost feel like this game's going under, AP. I just don't see where the points are going to come from. We also had it in the chat, too, that brought it up. No Trent Williams for the 49ers is a big deal, one of the best tackles in the league. You have no Deebo for this 49ers team. I know they went against the Browns last week, which is a very good defense, or at least we thought they were before Gardner Minshew tore them up. But that team didn't look like they were clicking. And I know McCaffrey went out the game and stuff, too. But you couple that with a 49ers defense that we know is very good. I just don't know how we're going to get the 43 points tonight. And that's my main concern on this slate. I just want to capture all these floor plays. And it looks like Christian McCaffrey is going to be healthy enough to play. And I think we have a lot of value to work with, too, with McLeod and Powell both being under 3K to maybe fit in like these studs, AP.
I mean, the 49ers, they can get it done without Deebo. But if McCaffrey, like, re-injures, has a re-injury, I think it's like this is, again, another trap spot. And again, the Vikings haven't been good. But, again, their defense has looked better over the last 3 weeks. They have another week under their belt with no Justin Jefferson. And I just think it comes down to can, Osborne, Addison, and Powell step up. And then the other thing, too, is we got George Kittle, TJ Hawkinson, too, like tight end smash yesterday. Who knows if a narrative or what, like tight end. I didn't even know that was a thing. Tight end day or whatever. Did you hear that? National Tight End Day? Is that a real thing?
It's a real thing, and it was just spammed into our Millie Roundtable chat the entire time. And you know what? It was actually National Tight End Day. You had Andrews, Waller, Kelsey. It ended up being Waller and Kelsey was optimal, but the winner was Andrews, Kelsey with Mahomes there. National Tight End Day is real. Don't let people tell you wrong. And Dallas Goedert, also in the showdown winner. You have 2 great tight ends tonight. I just worry for Hawkinson because this matchup is one of the toughest for tight ends in the business.
Did you see our guy Big T's late swap to Lamar? They had a little Lamar, Mark Andrews correlation there. So I was trying to call him this morning to ask him about that. And,
that was sharp. That was savvy. I mean,
really sharp.
Fourth quarter.
Really, really sharp. I wish I would have made that type of adjustment too. Shout out to him, but I believe ran bad. I mean, imagine like having that stack and then you got like Palmer and then Cup, later. And God, that just I would be very tilted with Cup getting us only what 6? God, man, I'm going to tilt myself again. But oh yeah, what'd that say? Who started it?
George Kittle started the national tight end.
Did he really?
There's narrative right here.
So a few other things, and I'm curious, you got the base build up. I'm really curious to see what it's showing because 49ers defense, not cheap at all and going to be popular. Now, a couple things. I went back and looked. Let's look at both defenses. How many times have the 49ers defense, an elite defense, how many times have they put up double digits points? Twice on the season. 16 versus Dallas and 13 versus the Steelers in week 1. In the week 1, I mean, they absolutely slaughtered the Steelers. How many times? So the Vikings defense, I think like 1,600 cheaper or something. I don't know right off the top of my head. How many times have they put up double-digit performances? Twice. 21 against the Bears last week, 17 against the Panthers 3 weeks ago. So you got this Vikings defense that, again, what have they done against good teams? They haven't done much. Like 2 against Kansas City, 2 against the Chargers, and 5 against Philly. So, I don't know. Like, I want to get away from defenses so bad. But they continue to be right there. And the other thing is these kickers. The other thing I thought of, Rubio, and we briefly talked about it before we started the show, this sets up to be low total. 49ers, good red zone defense. Both teams without their wide receiver ones. Seems like it could be a day where they struggle inside the red zone, which usually makes it a good kicker slate. Both kickers really haven't been like they haven't put up big numbers on the season. Maybe they're due, though. Maybe they're due. What's your thoughts on, I guess, walk us through what the base build is showing. Are we getting a lot of defenses? Are we getting a lot of kickers? What does it look like?
So first thing that pops off the page that I was surprised about is Brandon Powell, captain. I mean, 2,800 stepped into the wide receiver 3 role for the Vikings there. And you get a lot of weapons, a lot of receiving weapons, especially for the Vikings as the top optimal. Remember, this is without any adjustments made. It's just what the best projected score is, right? And you see Purdy with McCaffrey, no IU. You get Madison at 6,600 here. And you get a lot of Powell at captain. You get a lot of Madison at captain. And it kind of disperses a little bit. And when we go to flex, same thing. You get a ton of Purdy, a ton of McCaffrey, IU, but you still get Powell's like almost a lot. It's like over 80% Powell. Over, 70% Madison. You get Hawk at a large clip as well. And what's weird, too, is that the top 3 are 4-2 Vikings. And then you get this 49ers captain team, which, what was funny was when the Bills slate, we had the Bills being a very popular captain choice at over 50%. Don't ever do a defense captain where it's just so duped. What brought that to my attention was that defense captain builds always funnel one way. And you might be thinking, oh, yeah, mid-tier captain stuff, but they all funnel the same way. And this one could easily be like Ray McLeod over Powell, and it could be a 5-1, or it could be just upgrading or downgrading Madison to, say, Kittle or whoever's in that price range, right? So I just want to tread caution on anyone trying to think about 49ers defense captain. You're going to be duped a heavy amount, and that's not – I don't love that play anyway to begin with. But you get some 4-2 49ers. One thing that's very apparent, too, is that there's no 5-1s right here right away. And this is 150 teams. We only get 8 5-1s. And it looks like it's a mix between Vikings 5-1s and 49ers 5-1s. So it seems like the scoring is pretty even on both sides of the slate. I mean, I think the person that you'd be completely underweight on when you just run these and stuff is the kickers. I mean, that is definitely something that you're not going to get a ton of kickers, it looks. I guess, where's Greg Joseph at? Yeah, Greg Joseph, only 3%. Doesn't seem to love the kickers right away, but yeah, not a ton of Kirk Cousins either. And he's 10-6. He is sandwiched between McCaffrey and Ayuk, who I think are 2 of the best plays on the slate. Then right next to Purdy, Cousins could be the forgotten man.
Yeah. When I look at it too, so the 49ers have always stuck out as a team that out of all of the teams, they are one of the teams that has a decent like 5-1 rate. We've seen it three times already this season, which is insane. But that was with a healthy squad. And how does that happen? Well, we had George Kittle captain, we had Christian McCaffrey captain, and then we had Brandon Ayuk, and that was the game against the Steelers, I believe, to start the season. And the rest were 3-3, and then we had a 2-4, actually. 2 of the last 3 games were 2-4s. And the other thing that really sticks out is we got studs. Amari Cooper, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Puka, my boy, Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey. And then on the Vikings side, they're actually coming off of 5-1. They had a 1-5 earlier in the season. That was against the Chargers. Chargers 5-1 them with Keenan Allen captain. But what we see with the Vikings is you got Travis Kelce, Justin Jefferson twice, DeAndre Swift, Keenan Allen. So, when I look at this, if Christian McCaffrey is a full go, and I'm surprised in our base build that we weren't getting much of Christian McCaffrey captain, I feel like it's like a slate where if you're in single entry 3 max, for sure, you lock him in and you move on. Like, it seems like one of the clearest, and I love the Q tag by his name. We know that, look, I'm not going to try to predict like re-injuries and stuff. In the Millie Maker formats in 150, yeah, you're not going to lock in Christian McCaffrey. You want to diversify a little bit. Single entry cash, 3 max. Doesn't it seem like on the surface you just jam in McCaffrey? But both, like, who are the other like kind of studs that we would think of in this situation? It'd be a Justin Jefferson. He's not in the game. And then it would be a Deebo Samuel up there too. And then maybe Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, or like a TJ Hawkinson. And I don't know between the 3 receivers, to be honest. It could be any one of them, which leads me back to, hey, let's just lock Christian McCaffrey captain and move on from the rest. It seems like we got enough value to make it work.
I think we have plenty of value. And the one thing that I want to do too, we also have it on the site. If you just go to like our Proptimizer or anything, you can see where the books are leaning, where like, prop sites like Prize Picks and Underdog are leaning as well. Let's check and see if McCaffrey has any props up. And this will kind of tell you his rushing prop is 61.5. His receiving prop is always going to be stout. It's 23.5. So slightly lower, 84, 85 total basically. But, he's going to be better than even odds for a touchdown and everything. Maybe they're expecting maybe just slight limitations. But this is an offense without Deebo Samuel, one of their most versatile weapons. To me, I just screams like they're going to go Ayuk, they're going to go McCaffrey, they're going to go Kittle. And those 3 guys are just so clear funnels. And I just love all 3 today. And Kittle being priced up to 7,200, I just think Ayuk and McCaffrey are the 2 guys I want to captain the most today. And McCaffrey is easily fittable. Like you said, AP, we got a Brandon Powell value. We got Ray McLeod. We got the kickers. I'm kind of bullish on the kickers with it, being a dome or, just an indoor stadium. It is kind of nice. I think it just sets up very well for it. And the 49ers defense is a lot better than the Vikings defense. I don't love going with a Viking captain, just off the top of my head, especially for single entries or 3 entry max. Like, it just seems like those Ayuk and McCaffrey are head and shoulders above any of these offensive weapons for the Vikings. And we just funneled by the Vikings here. Let me go ahead and add a filter real quick in Saber. Remember, this is the optimizer build. I just want to see who you could possibly spend up for. You're not going to captain Cousins. You might captain Hawkinson. You might captain Addison. I don't love captaining Madison at all. There's not a whole lot of Vikings options. And for the 49ers, it's just head and shoulders above in the captain slot.
Yeah. A couple things just to add to that. I mean, we obviously like Brandon Ayuk, 10 targets last week, only caught 4 of them, but for 76 yards. The dude is an absolute stud. Kind of diving deeper, looking for trends, as far as matchup goes. One of the other weak spots in this Vikings defense has been against wide receiver 2s or secondary wide receivers. We saw Rashee Rice have a good game, got in the box. Terrence Marshall, Mike Williams, Devonta Smith, just a few that had really solid games against this team. So I do think if you're playing 150, introducing Juwan Jennings, Ray McLeod, giving them somewhat of a fair projection is kind of interesting. But obviously, Brandon Ayuk is going to be the guy. Then it's George Kittle. I mean, this guy, like, his floor to ceiling combination is insane. You're talking absolute nuke against Dallas. I mean, 3 touchdowns on 4 targets, for 28 DK points. And then against the Browns, he did absolutely nothing. And, the matchup is going to be fine here. And then TJ Hawkinson, he's going to play the whole game. And he's averaged over 8 targets per game. And you got to think with no Justin Jefferson, that's going to be a guy that they go to as well. So let's go to, do you have our kind of bias build? What do we always call that? Our bias build?
Yeah. Our bias projections that we come up with.
I mean, I would say research bias sounds a little bit better. We're not just like doing our own takes. We're diving in. We're trying to make some sharp adjustments based off of research trends and things that matchup wise that we see. I have a couple interesting ones. We'll see. We don't like defenses, but we can't completely just avoid them or forget about them. What if we project, and we're not going to go crazy, but what if we project the Vikings defense to put up more points than the 49ers? And what if we just make another simple projection adjustment of projecting the Vikings kicker to score more than the 49ers kicker? Do you like that? And I'm not saying go crazy with it. I'm just saying a slight adjustment there, because from a pricing standpoint, the 49ers defense is insane. I mean, we have viable skill position options that are much cheaper than the 49ers defense.
So let's do this. All right. I'll put the Vikings defense even with the 49ers. 6 is a very viable score for both teams, right? You have 1,600. We were getting a ton of the 49ers defense at 9 points. All right. We were getting 35%. And when I had the Vikings at 4, we were only getting 3%. I bumped up Joseph to 7.5. Let's go ahead and get him up. Let's say he kicks a couple 40-yard field goals or something like that, right? 8. Let's get Moody down to 7.75. Just kind of get him just below our guy. Look how much Moody we were getting at 9. I think the 49ers are more inclined to kick field goals, but I'm definitely down to do this. I bumped up Ray McLeod. I bumped up Jordan Mason a little bit. Do you like where any of these projections are at right here? Like any gripes that you have? Potential Madison bump or Addison?
I love being over on McCaffrey. I think that's good. What do we have the quarterbacks at?
We have Cousins at 16, bump slightly down, and Purdy at 17, bump slightly down.
I kind of like bumping up Madison too. One thing, like the 49ers defense is really good. There have been some okay performances from opposing running backs. If you just combined last week, Kareem Hunt and whatchamacallin, who's their other running back?
Jerome Ford.
Jerome Ford had a good game against them, against 49ers. So, yeah, I don't mind. And you got to love the targets. Like I'm with you, Madison. I don't know if he's the guy, and you got Cam Akers and others behind him, but the targets out of the backfield are intriguing. I think it's a good matchup for that too. The game script also backs that up. And then the other question, so we got KJ Osborne. I like that on him. What do we have? Like what are we doing with the trio of Powell, Osborne, Addison? They're all going to be the guys. I don't think N'Keal Harry is going to factor in.
No.
So, and we know, Powell played on 60% of snaps last week?
Yeah.
And I kind of like him. I think you got to, I don't see one guy absolutely nuking, which is the problem. I could be wrong, but it seems like kind of how you project them looks pretty good to me.
Yeah, perfect. You like Hawkinson at 13? That would be the one last thing, and then we'll rerun it.
Yeah, so the other thing I think about when I think about the Vikings side of these projections is we don't have a lot of touchdown equity built in to the skill position players, which, keep in mind. And so with that also in mind, I do like the idea of being over on the kicker, the Vikings kicker. All
right, let's go ahead and run these contest centers one more time. Let's see what we get. Josh Oliver tonight at 200. You saw him right there. It's 17%. That's going to be intriguing because they do like to use that second tight end position quite a bit. Could be good value if you need to stoop down that far. Obviously, we saw a hit with Cedric Wilson last night, who was in the winner. It was A.J. Brown, Tyreek Hill. It was just a studs galore outside of Tua. And basically, it was just Cedric Wilson who opened up the build. And then the Thursday night game, it was Jamal Agnew, who ended up being in the winner as well at a very cheap thing. So you have you have quite a little bit of appeal to these punt guys. Here we go. The results are in. Who is our top captain? Survey says Christian McCaffrey, 33%.
I like it. Can you highlight those builds? I just want to see it because the top build that we have is a Kittle, which again, if you're 115 and fading Kittle captain, you're doing it wrong. You just are. You got to have – I don't care. Like every single game of theirs, if you played all the showdown slates, you got to have some Kittle captain. He can just absolutely nuke. But I like what I'm seeing here. What are we expecting for Oliver?
3 points, believe it or not.
3 points. Yeah, I mean – so I have nightmares of the play last night. It was a $200 play that the projection was insane. I paused and looked, and I'm like, is this real? Like, are we just assuming that this guy's going to have the same, a similar role? I didn't bump him down enough. Like, I bumped him down quite a bit, and he was still hitting every build. And what did he end up with? Like 1.5 points?
Yeah, 1.4. A nice catch for 4 yards. And then never saw the field again.
Oh, man. That, like that's one where it's just you really got to – and who was it on the show that was it Mangone, right? I think Mangone talked about it on the show last night. Like, do we even know if this projection is going to be true? We're talking about the showdown slate last night because he ended up being 45% owned, and he was even like 5% captain. I mean, so I don't know. These 200 guys, they don't have to do much to be optimal, but you gotta just be cautious with them too at the same time. Would you agree with that, or do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, and it has been the winner the past 2 times, but you're going to see here, I don't think Josh Oliver hits. That's a McCaffrey captain team, right? I don't think Josh Oliver hits an over-exceeding amount, right? Jeff Wilson, for me, was hitting 60+%. I thought he was a smash play. I thought he would get Salvon Ahmed's like carries and stuff. That didn't happen to be the case, but we only get 11% Oliver. I bumped Akers up. Let me get him down. If we bumped up Madison, I'm going to rerun this real quick, but the number should stay relatively the same.
If anytime you make a change, are you rerunning the contest then?
Yeah. Just this will lower Akers. So you're going to see here, we have 12% Akers despite giving Madison a bump too. We don't want both running backs bumped up. I mean, is it possible that they both do well? Yes, but Akers barely got any touches last week. It looks like they just funneled to Madison. If we're expecting Madison's projection to go up, it's only natural to think that Akers wouldn't get that bump up. So I rerun the contest sims. You're going to see here, I just reorganized by RAROI. I got 3 contests in here, and Akers goes from basically nothing. I don't know if we even have a Cam Akers build now after bumping him down to 2. Yeah, we don't. So that's fine with me.
I like these top ROI builds. It looks like they're non-Christian McCaffrey builds. Would you assume that's happening because we have to expect that McCaffrey is going to garner a lot of ownership at the captain spot?
Yeah, I mean, they're projecting for 22%. It still gives us a lot of Christian McCaffrey captain. So you see here, we have the ranks right here and stuff. If we go up to Christian McCaffrey, you get some high ranks, like number 9 right here. This is a 4-2. This 4-2, it's pretty nice. Kind of correlates to what you're saying. Purdy maybe gets picked off. Maybe the 49ers are chasing a little bit.
Actually like that build.
There, the 2 guys are going to get all the usage. Like, it's nice.
Kind of reminds me a little bit of like what we saw last night too. I mean,
yes.
What was optimal? It was AJ Brown, right, and then Miami defense. They got the pick 6. Again, these are things that are impossible to predict, but you can't just ignore them. Like, you gotta kind of embrace the variance there.
And just to show the difference too, let's go ahead and see. This is the top McCaffrey build for for the Millie Maker. Let's do it for a single entry contest.
I'm with our boy right here. I'm all about like get the kickers in there, get the defenses in the flex, but I just can't click the defense captain button. I'm not able to do it, Rubio. I just am not.
I'm not able to do it at all. I just can't do it.
Even though, I mean, doing these optimals, it is funny how I'm not saying it happens a lot, but you see it. Like, we saw it the last time the Vikings played. against the Bears. So it can happen. And that's why I like the move that we made here, because, again, just picking up on kind of things that, we're picking up with the eye test, or at least that I have been over the last 3 weeks. Something's clicking with the Vikings defense. And I don't think this team just folds. If anything, you're looking at this team, they got to play you at in your house. And, they lost to the Browns last week, who the Browns just lost to the Colts, right? Or did they win that game? 38-39, and I don't even know who won.
Browns
won, right?
Won,
Browns won.
The match.
Yeah, the refs. Oh, that's right. Yesterday was so wild, I can't even remember. But you got to think that, like with no Debo and now with Purdy, you never know. Like that doubt starts that you go 5 weeks, you're the man. Everyone's like, people are saying, oh, he's him, all this stuff. You get this one loss, and it's like, is he the guy? And that doubt starts to creep in. That gives confidence to a Vikings defense. So that's why I like that little move that we made, giving the Vikings defense a little bit more points than the 49ers. And they're cheaper. They're just cheaper, and we know that that's where the leverage is going to be on the slate too, because 49ers defense has to be popular.
Oh, 100%. And it's funny, too, because it correlates to what we got. Madison correlates with the defense, right? So you're going to get a lot of Madison with the defense builds and stuff. And Madison is hitting our top teams because we gave him a healthy bump. The thing I like about Madison as well, the thing I like just about playing running backs in general in Showdown, is that you don't need the quarterback to throw to him. You don't need two things to happen. If Madison is doing well, it likely means that these wide receivers who are going to garner ownership and Kirk Cousins maybe aren't having their best game. Maybe Madison takes 1 or 2 touchdowns away from the passing game. Maybe the Vikings only score 17 points. I don't know. I think it's easier to hit the nuts in that regard. You don't need to rely on too much from an underdog. We saw it with Breida against the 49ers. Breida was the one who was optimal because he fluked into a 7-yard touchdown. Otherwise, it was terrible the whole game. But 6,600 is not expensive for a guy who got a ton of the work last week. And Akers is there. It's a looming shadow. It's not risk-free. However, I do like the way it sets up, because if he runs one in, we could be looking at a bunch of these slates where, Madison gets 10 points and he's the optimal Viking along with the kicker or something like that.
Yeah. Yep. I was actually looking quick to see if there's been a defense that was optimal in the flex against this Vikings team. Panthers defense actually were optimal in the flex. So there you go. Not a team that's not very good too. So again, it projects to be kind of a crazy slate. I don't know. The spread is indicative to, 6.5. A road favorite. I like the Vikings in this spot. Do you have a read on a side here?
Oh man, I lean for the spread. I don't got to lean at all. I'll be honest. I just don't. I don't know how the 49ers are going to react without Trent Williams. How healthy is Christian McCaffrey is a big thing too, because they struggled last week. No and ifs or buts about it. Should they have won the game? Yes. Did they lose to the Browns? Yes. But they didn't look right. And Trent Williams going down does not help. Debo being out does not help. So I get worried about Purdy. This defense can really help.
I love this spot for the Vikings. Just think about everything you're saying. Like, the Vikings have had a bad year, but this is still a team that, has some. Just Jefferson being gone is huge. I'm not trying to say that isn't, but it's still a team that has viable pieces. TJ Hawkinson, I think. If KJ Osborne could catch a ball, he would be up there. Jordan Addison, he's been good so far. It's a tough thing to replace Justin Jefferson, probably the best receiver in the league. But with their defense playing a little bit better, I like them to cover, maybe steal a win. And then it's, the people are really starting to question Purdy if that happens. And I can see that scenario playing out. And so in doing that, you got to bring in it has to be a team win for them. The defense has to play good. The kicker has to make kicks. And I kind of like embracing that in showdown formats. That's where I'm going to be me. But even despite that, Christian McCaffrey is going to be my favorite captain. The volume that he would get, no matter the script, I think is going to be there.
Let's X out some captains then. Let's go ahead. I got Brock Purdy out of there because I think the funnel is so clear for the 49ers that it'll be McCaffrey or Ayuk or Kittle in the captain slot for the 49ers. I got Brock Purdy. Do we want to take out Kirk Cousins at all, potentially?
I was just reading the chat. Sorry. Yeah, so both teams have been, one other trend I saw, both teams have been good at limiting opposing quarterback fantasy point production. And so I don't mind being I don't like these two quarterbacks. For Kirk Cousins to get there, you need a multiple touchdown game and to spread the ball out. I do think that could happen with, he's not just only peppering Justin Jefferson. So I do think the likelihood is a little bit greater, but against this defense, it's kind of tough to imagine that happening. I do see a more diversified kind of game being here, which may, maybe you leave him in there. I don't know. I mean, looking back at past optimals, you go back to last season, Kirk Cousins landed in the optimal spot one time. I think it's a tough spot for Kirk Cousins. I think it's going to be a skill. Like I would think like Alexander Mattison, the odds of him landing in that captain spot would be a little bit better, assuming, he gets in the box. And then TJ Hawkinson. I will say it is tougher to, like, if you want to be contrarian, play a Vikings captain. It does seem like 49ers captains are going to be the more popular side. Is that what you're getting in that base build or even the Sims?
In the Opto, it was a lot of Brandon Powell and stuff. I wanted the punt captain. It was kind of similar to that Michael Gallup area where Michael Gallup was a very popular punt play on the Opto. What was it, Cowboys and Chargers last week, right? This time, it was Brandon Powell, it was Madison, and I didn't make any changes to the Opto. Those were the two most popular. Then when we go to Sims, it's the 49ers for sure.
Yeah, Ayuk. I mean, look at that. Ayuk, Kittle.
And I think it matters, too, that the reason why I don't really want to captain Kirk Cousins here is the fact that you have the wide receivers are so cheap. Like Osborne is only 6,400. Powell's only 2,800. Hawkinson is the only guy who carries a heavy price tag at the receiving position. Like Addison's 7,600. That's not terrible. Hawkinson's only 8,800. I think if one of those guys does really well, they have a much better chance of being in the captain slot over at 10-6 Kirk Cousins because he's priced 1.8K higher than Hawkinson. It's not like A.J. Brown and Tyreek Hill last night, who were both more expensive than the quarterbacks. Or A.J. Brown was slightly cheaper than Jalen Hurts. But Tyreek Hill was 1,400 more than Tua.
Yeah. If you were to have a favorite Vikings captain, what do you think? KJ, I know they've said, and again, like you laugh at this, but they want KJ Osborne to be the guy to take on like the Justin Jefferson. I'll say routes and not role because filling his shoes, I don't think any of these three can do it. But assuming that is true in the case and that he's the guy that gets, more of the target, like if you look at the combined targets for the receiving core last week, I think it was like 15 total targets, which is half of what it was the week before. You got to assume that number is going to be more today, right? I mean, that was just incredibly low for a receiving core. Like that's Justin Jefferson alone's, target volume.
The weather last game was absolutely horrific.
That's right, too. The wind. Yeah, you're right.
Game. So you get a climate-controlled environment in Minnesota now. Probably going to be down. I would assume that those passing attempts go way up. I like Osborne there, the captain, and look at that first build that you see. Like I said, I'm a slappy for McCaffrey and Ayuk today. I just don't see a way, unless McCaffrey's not healthy, I just don't see a way where Ayuk and McCaffrey aren't in the optimal. I just love them so much, and I think it's just about building around them. And even if it's not in captain, you get a guy like Osborne who has dropped multiple touchdowns this season, right? You can easily get like 15 from him and, potentially get in the captain slot because he's only 6,400. That is so soft for potential wide receiver one.
Yeah. Just thinking through this, I think I got to keep Cousins in there as a captain option. Like when you just look at this game in 43 total, where the point's going to come, I think that's where all of our mind goes. But again, the parity in the NFL right now is insane. The game is inside. It's indoors. Are we overvaluing like the points associated to guys like Deebo Samuel and Justin Jefferson? What would the spread be if both of those guys, or what would the total be if both of those guys are in? Like, do you think they're worth 3.5, 4 points? Would it be 47.5? Or like, I mean, it is crazy to think about it. Like everyone likes this under. It seems like that. I kind of like the over. Like, I think we see some points. I think the 49ers defense struggles a little bit, and I think the Vikings kind of catch them by surprise. Like, and I think that's going to be a contrarian take on the slate, but we see it all the time in the NFL. We got 2 recent weeks of examples of that happening where teams just get caught with their pants down. I mean, the Colts yesterday. I mean, no one saw that coming.
Yeah.
These type of things happen, and the margins are just so razor thin. It's just I think I'm going to run Viking scripts tonight and just reduce volume, but get very aggressive with like Viking scripts. And that's something that I like to do at times where I'm not, maxing the 150, maybe I'm putting 50 in there, but I'm heavy Viking scripts. Like I'm rotating in different, TJ Hawkinson, Alexander Madison, KJ Osborne, etc., with the Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey run backs, and then mixing in Kittle too. That I think in tournaments is somewhat interesting if you think the Vikings stand a chance in this game.
Yeah, I think this game will be competitive. I just don't see it being a blowout. I just think that, going on the road, any environment, especially on a primetime game or anything. I know primetime Kirk Cousins is going to be a talking point, but yeah, I don't see this one blowing out.
I almost forgot about that. I might have to get back on the 49ers now. Primetime Cousins. All right, so he's had at least one primetime game this year, right? Do you remember which game that was?
Eagles, he crushed.
Oh, he did. Oh, man, is the trend broken? I mean,
it's dead. One time. That's all he did. It's dead now. It's officially dead.
Can he crush? He had four passing touchdowns in that game. And who did they go to? Do you remember? Let me see if I can
Jefferson a lot and Hawkinson. Hawkinson, I think, was the optimal captain because Hawkinson got 2 touchdowns. I don't know if he was optimal captain, but he had to be close to it.
Cousins needs to channel his inner Mahomes. One guy that's able just to, Mahomes still has Kelsey, but he needs to. I mean, not having Justin Jefferson makes this team that much easier to defend, and that's the other counterpoint to kind of what I was saying in my Viking scripts. But again, I see paths to where both can happen, and if the more popular route is going to be San Francisco defense, San Francisco scripts, I think an easy way to get leverage on the slate is just running Viking scripts. I mean, it's a 6.5. I mean, they're 6.5 favorites on the road. It just seems like such a trappy spot coming off, a game that they just lost in Cleveland too. So I don't know. It's interesting. Do you have any final thoughts on this game? Do we got a little bit of time left? Do we want to look at tomorrow's NBA slate? I know we're both kind of excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, people come here for NFL, but I'd love to talk some NBA. But I think my final take here is pay attention to the coach speak. I know I say it every time. If we get word of McCaffrey, he wasn't 100%, but he's going to give it a go, right? That'll have me bump him down just a tad. It'll have me bump up Jordan Mason. We didn't talk about the backup running back situation in San Francisco. I know it's easy to say if he's in, he's a full go, and I want to believe that too. But if Coach Speak says anything else where it's like, yeah, McCaffrey's going to try and give it a go, or it's a little ambiguous. I don't hate going Jordan Mason. He was a clear backup last week, even with Eli Mitchell healthy and active for that game. It was Jordan Mason who got the carries. It's interesting. Just pay attention. If McCaffrey just comes out and says, yeah, there's no issues, I'm going to be the guy, yeah, lock and load. But, nothing's set in stone. That's why we got the Discord too. Always don't be afraid to hop in. NBA 15% off for life. NBA literally starts tomorrow, but Coach Speak's going to be important. I know it'll be in our Discord, and it'll definitely determine how exposed I am to McCaffrey tonight.
So, and again, I'm not one that tries to predict injuries at all, but it's Showdown, and we do talk about we always make the siege, and anytime a starting quarterback gets hurt, everyone's always tweeting at the siege. The siege is going to ship all the money, backup quarterback. In these spots where McCaffrey's been more injury prone, over the years, and I always assume if he's going to play, he's a full go. That's just always how I assume these things. But naturally, in running Vikings scripts, like I talked about, it's not like I'm full fading McCaffrey in those scripts at all. But in that scenario where it happens, you're going to be infinitely unique. And then two, I think the 49ers without Debo and McCaffrey are a very, very average team. and on the defenses, missing some defensive pieces too. That's where the Vikings can steal a win. Let's just briefly talk about. I'm too excited. NBA starts tomorrow. So I was talking to Jordan Lemon in Discord from Sabersim. I don't know if you're up for it, Rubio. I was going to talk to you about this after the show. We talk about it on the. I think all right. So we got the NBA hardwood, which I'll be on Wednesday. I think right before that show, I'll just go back to back. I think we do like a 45-minute Saber show where we break down the slate. We bring on Jordan from Sabersim. He can talk to us about the contest sims and late swap and all those features. If you're in, I'm going to put it on the calendar and we'll lock it in.
Let's
run it. We need Rubio though. Let's run it. All right, perfect.
Let's run it.
Let's look at the 2-game slate quickly tomorrow though. It's going to be interesting. One thing that I always do, so I've been over the last week spending a lot of time. I look at updated rosters and I update kind of my own little usage charts that I have. And because some of these teams, like look at the Suns, like they got now Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant. There's a lot of usage to go around on these type of teams. And then especially with the Big Nurkic down low. The Warriors, it's always been a tough team from a usage standpoint. Now you have Chris Paul, who will handle the rock, taking out. And I actually like Steph Curry working off ball a little bit more. You got Klay Thompson, who's just a statue. Wiggins, good to see him back and going. And then Draymond is, questionable. And then you got, I think it's Kuminga, who is he finally starting to take that next level, or is that just a preseason type of thing?
So,
it's awesome. Nice stats from him in the preseason.
Wednesday night, the Warriors put Chris Paul off the bench, and I think that's the correct move for the season. They didn't say if it would be set in stone. They said, we're just trying things out. If Chris Paul's coming off the bench, that probably means Kuminga is starting. Draymond Green is hurt. I don't think he plays personally. So that's a huge deal too. And there's a guy who does a lot of the pick and roll, a lot of running off the screens and stuff. So Draymond Green's status is huge. And Chris Paul, whether he starts or not, he's still going to play 30 minutes a game. But the less he overlaps with Steph Curry, the better. And I honestly hope Chris Paul starts because I still think Kuminga and Sarge's minutes are going to be just fine. But that's where it's intriguing. Draymond Green's status is huge. Chris Paul, whether he's off the bench or not, if he's starting, I just know Kuminga's ownership is going to be low AP, and it does look like he's taken a step in the right direction at the very least. We all know the talent he's got.
Yeah, so we don't have projections. So, okay, it makes it a little tough. We don't have projections yet. I got to get with Captain later, as we dial in our projections. I'm working on my bias projections too. One little quick note, and it's hard to run these things without projections, obviously. But if Draymond's out, Looney becomes interesting too. If you remember that Looney role from last year where he's more of a facilitator. Like the Warriors are better with one of Draymond or Looney on the court. Now you have another facilitator in Chris Paul. So it's going to be interesting seeing how they work into the mix. That allows guys like Curry, Klay obviously, and Wiggins to work off ball. And when those guys are doing that, this Warriors team is a lot better. And then, the Suns will be interesting. I think Bradley Beal will kind of integrate fine in this. Like, what's your thoughts on Beal and how he's going to mix in? Like, I think he's someone that is maybe fine being that third guy. I don't know. I guess we'll see. We haven't seen a lot of Beal lately. You know what I mean? Like,
his price tag is awful, AP. I don't know if you've seen, but this price tag here, it's only.
I haven't seen the price, but
$6,900 on Showdown. It's even worse. So I guess it's not the worst here on Classic, but he's only $1,400 less. I don't think he has an issue being the third guy. However, I do see him being on the court a lot when one of Booker or Durant is not on the court, and that's going to matter. They'll always be the second option outside of when they're starting, when they're closing. So. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I just think he's the one who's going to take the seat back, and he'll get his numbers and stuff. But I don't expect much upside from him, time in and time out.
The other thing too is the Lakers Nugget. Tomorrow's slate is a really interesting 2-game slate because I could see it being not like a chop. There's a lot. There's a lot like these teams. There's usage that just disperses. We see that at the Lakers all the time with LeBron. You got Reeves, who took a big step up last year. We got Christian Wood now, who is going to come in off the bench with Rui. Rui was awesome last year down the stretch as well. You have Gabe Vincent on this team. And then it's Jokic. I'm really curious to see how Jokic starts the season. He's kind of predictable in that sometimes he starts slow. I mean, NBA champion, 2-time MVP, should be 3-time, right? Or is he 1-time MVP?
Should have been the
3. Should be 3. He's obviously the GOAT. But
that price tag AP. God,
he's just you can't. Okay, so it's a dumb point. He's 10K for him. Like and this is where tomorrow's debate will be interesting. Even if he gets you like 55, you're just locking him in. Like you're literally just locking him in. And 55 seems like the floor for a guy. Even if Jokic doesn't play, like even if he plays 33 minutes, which, given the fact that he played late into the summer, didn't get his normal summer off, which is going to be the case again this year because I see the Nuggets going far. Their team is just elite, top to bottom. If he gets you 55 here, he's an absolute lock. I don't know. I'm pumped for this. Like I like this first game over the later game a little bit, but what's your take?
So 28 minutes for Jokic in their last preseason game shows that I think he'll easily get into the low 30s here. I do think they start off slow as usual. Big T saying is fade the Nuggets early on. And here, again, if you're here for the NFL talk, skip back 20 minutes. We went over the entire NFL slate.
We're all too excited.
We're just so pumped for NBA. NBA 15% off for life. We're already buzzing about it. I love this game, but AP, Draymond Green news, not a lot of people are going to know. I hope we don't get word until after lock because I anticipate him sitting. It was his first time practicing yesterday. And while I like the early game for this, with Jokic clear play, this Lakers rotation is going to be 9 deep. And look at these prices. For a backup point guard, 4,500. For a backup forward, 5,100. Christian Wood is the clear backup center, 6,200. That's awful. LeBron's fine. AD's fine. 8,900 for Anthony Davis is cool. You still got this murky situation with Russell and Vincent. I think those minutes could easily be 28 and 20 for these two guys. You have Taurean Prince, who could be the value here in the early game. Who's going to be out for the Jared Vanderbilt's going to be out for the Lakers. So Taurean Prince is going to step into the starting lineup, 3,500. He'll be chalk. You go to the Denver side. Aaron Gordon's here. Bruce Brown is the one who they lost, Eric.
Bruce Brown.
So what you're going to have
that's a big loss. Like he was great off the bench down the stretch, but again, he's secondary piece, but definitely a big loss. Not as concerning for this slate.
One guy who just got a huge contract extension, Zeke Naji, 4 years, $32 million. So he's making just as much as Saquon Barkley and all these other great running backs, but he's the backup forward for the Nuggets here. Zeke Naji will play a role, 3,900. See, these backups are just expensive, AP. You got Taurean Prince, who's going to start at 3,500 for the Lakers. I was hoping I could get sneaky with Naji and Peyton Watson to potentially enter the rotation, but it doesn't look like DK is giving us that opportunity. It's making you want to live in the mid-tier. And maybe that's why the price for Jokic at 10K makes a little bit more sense because they know there's not a ton of value to work with. Christian Brown is 4,400. Gordon, MPJ. But then when you flip it over to the Warriors side of the ball, if Draymond misses, you're going to get Kuminga at 4,600. Not the worst at all. Your boy Looney at 5,300 with a huge role. And then my guy, Dario Saric, is only 3,400 and could easily play 20 minutes off the bench. I'm
always such a sucker for
interesting because the pricing just feels a little bit better. AP
Big T knows over the years I've always been a sucker for playing him as a punt value. These big dudes, these big white dudes that can stroke threes from time to time. I'm always Bertans was the other one. Now it's Saric.
Bielitsa was the one 2 years ago.
Bielitsa. Hey, I like their game, but. What do you think Saric's role is going to be? I mean, he's got to come in and hit some threes, right?
Without Draymond, he played extremely well in the preseason too. And I know Big T always makes fun of me. Oh, you always reference preseason or whatever. You get a hit into these rotations, and the Warriors just played their mock game, and they were missing Draymond Green obviously and stuff, and they were missing Looney, but it was Jackson Davis, who I don't think will be in the rotation, who got a lot of the center minutes. Saric played 28 minutes and had a 14-6, 3-2. The dude is a very talented player. I think he actually handles a lot of this pick and roll game, and it gets involved a lot with the ball. I love Saric's game just in general. I think he's in the perfect organization this year. I think Saric, I'm buying all the Saric stock this year, AP. Give me it at 3,400. He's going to be one of my top guys if Draymond misses.
Yeah, the other thing too, first game of the year, I don't know. I don't see, like, when I look at the Suns Warriors game, and now again, I haven't ran my own models and everything. 232.5. We got shooters for the Suns. You know, if Chef can come in and stroke it like he usually does, hitting the threes. Then you have a couple winners, like over the Kings. I saw that highlight. I saw a little bit of preseason. There, on any of the nights where there just wasn't a lot of sports stuff going on, I actually watched a couple preseason games. So just to get ready for the NBA. And I do think, like, I lean slightly to the over. Now, I haven't ran my models or anything like that. It's more so we need Chef and Chris Paul worries me a little bit. Like, I don't like Chris Paul just loves to, you know, dribble around and facilitate the offense, and just like, I don't love him for the over, but I think we lack defense here. Well, if Draymond's out, I like the over a little bit more too. Draymond's the one guy I could see game one coming in and trying hard on defense and being annoying, you know, getting kicked out. But outside of that, I think we see points maybe in both of these games, to be honest.
Yeah, and you also got, you know, Nurkic and Eubanks there. So the Suns, I would have thought they'd want to go slow or, you know, go fast, you know, go small ball and stuff. But they did get two big white centers there, right? So they might slow the game down just a tad too. But they could easily go KD at the 5. I just think that's more of a playoff thing. But if there was a spot to go small, it would be the Warriors, right? Like when Looney's off the court, they go Sarge at the 5. You know, I could see the Phoenix Suns matching that. That's something that we account for. And, you know, I'm just pumped. I'm absolutely buzzing for the NBA. I think this will be the best season yet. We got the Sabersim team just on full lock right now. It is just
when did the Lakers get Prince? They pick him up over the summer or something. They love these old little role player guys.
Oh, the worst part is, AP, because with Vanderbilt out, it's going to be Prince Day. It's got to be Prince Day at 3,500. He was stroking that 3 in the preseason, man.
Was he really?
Yeah. And the minutes seemed safe. He got like 15 or 16 first half minutes went in the dress rehearsal. Even if he only plays 24 minutes, you just saw me go over these other bench options. You're not getting much value at 5,100 with Rui. You're not getting much value at 3,900 for Peyton Watson or Zeke Naji. That's what makes these values so easy.
Just looking at this, anytime, one thing to remember, anytime Anthony Davis is out, and again, it's Anthony Davis. He gets hurt a lot. He misses a lot of games. Play whatever the opposing center is against this Lakers team, unless they put LeBron at the 5. Otherwise, they had Christian Wood at the 5, probably arguably one of the worst defenders in the league against opposing centers. I mean, we absolutely ran opposing centers against this guy for years now. I mean, it's just good offensive player, bad defensive player. So that'll be really interesting.
Yeah, perfect, man. We're buzzing. Full slate of content tomorrow. We got Showdown covered. 300K prize pool, 100K to first for tomorrow's Showdown. So if you guys aren't involved, you know, I always got the Showdown playbook. Kurt and maybe even Christine this year too will be involved. So we got a full slate of cores, full everything, you know, not just for the main slate, but we got you covered all the way up to lock. And if you guys haven't heard, and it's 100K to first on the Showdown, we usually have 50K to first contest all season long. The pricing differences and everything like that. We get you cores, get you squared away. And top to bottom, RPS got you covered. NBA 15% off for life. Get in the Discord. Favorite sport of the year. Favorite sport just in general. Bobby Hare's got you on the podcast too every single night. So we're buzzing. We know we're going to be successful. And that's what gets me the most excited. I know this year's going to be fun.
Man, I can't beat that. You closed it out perfectly. Let's get out of here. Our content schedule, we will have out. Normal schedule, though, like a lot of the same stuff. So we got you dialed. It's going to be a ton of fun. We'll always have the Up to Lock show. We'll have the Hardwood free show Monday through Friday. I'll be on that. It's going to be a great time. For Rubio, I'm AP. Let's run here.